right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from Says Pop, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined from just up the road in Orange County by Mahesh Guruswamy. How you doing, Mahesh?
Good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and Mahesh is a seasoned product development executive who's been in software development space for over 20 years and has managed teams of varying sizes for over a decade. You're currently chief technology officer at Kickstarter. Before that, you were an executive at Mosaic, Kajabi, and Smartsheet. And you wrote essays over the years that were culminated in your first book, How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It. And that was published just this year. Is that right?
That's right. In January of this year.
In January of this year. And that's what I want to talk about today is the book, because I feel like Mahesh, that people are so, once upon a time, I think, people had no problem delivering bad news and probably didn't do it in the greatest of way, right? Because people
Sure.
were, the hierarchies and managers and people tended to be pretty forthright or whatever. And then the pendulum has swung over the years, and people, I think, are almost afraid to deliver bad news. And we got into an avoidance culture and all of that kind of stuff. So what prompted the book? Because obviously you learned over the years of managing teams, you learned that this is a part of the job that nobody particularly likes, but there are obviously ways of doing it. So what kind of lessons did you learn, and what prompted you to write the book?
Yeah, I'll start with answering the second question first. So one of my personality quirks is that I'm an introvert
Hmm.
and I am a people pleaser. So both, like, double whammy
Right.
of combination of things that came in the way when I became a manager, when I have to, like, deliver tough news. The first time I did it, it was brutal because held on to the news. I didn't tell this person that they need to improve. And when I dropped it on them, they were surprised and shocked, and they were, like, frankly angry at me. It's like, "Hey,
Mhm.
why didn't you, like, deliver this? Why didn't you, like, tell me this before?" So that's when I learned that I need to learn how to deliver bad news better. And again, like, I don't, like, really subscribe to the old ways of delivering bad news, which is, hey, just do what I'm telling you to do. If
Mhm.
not, you're out, right? Like, I don't think that works anymore. So over the years, I kind of worked on myself on how do I do this in a way that is kind, not nice, but kind,
Mhm.
and still am able to, like, deliver the tough news to people who need to hear it. And that's what culminated in the book.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, about the fact that you used to like avoid doing it or put it off for as long as possible. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people do, and they feel like they're doing it. They kind of think, well, I'm being compassionate or I'm sparing that
Yeah.
person or whatever. But the reality is you're not. And the reality is you're actually harming that person, because as you said, you're not giving them the opportunity to improve early enough, and perhaps you're not giving them the opportunity to go somewhere else where they can succeed better.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Mhm. So then, as you started to put your essays together, and what was one of the first lessons? I mean, that was obviously one of the first lessons you
Mhm.
learned, is that you have to be proactive in that. But how did you learn or discover how to deliver bad news in a kind way? And what was that process like?
I think I think a lot of it, the style that I developed was mostly to work with my personality, right?
Hmm.
Because I think about I think about career values quite a bit, but I also think about eulogy values quite a bit too. So, and I think a lot of senior leaders don't think about the eulogy values as much as they should, which is, if you disappear today, how will the world remember you?
Hmm.
And so I think about that quite a bit. And that's when I decided that I'm not going to be cruel. I'm not going to be rude. I'm always going to be kind when I deliver, even if it's, like, tough news for the other person to hear, because the world is small, and you might end up burning a bridge, and you realize, like, 5 years later, that crap, yet you could have used that bridge.
Hmm.
So I tend to, like, keep all bridges intact, and even the people who I let go, I tend to stay close. I mean, as much as possible, like stay connected to them. And I have like still people who I had let go. I still talk to them, help them out with like networking or whatever I can do to help them. Because in the end, the way you make people feel is how you'll be remembered in the end.
Yeah, and I think, and it's obviously difficult, particularly say if you're in the instance where maybe you have to let somebody go or whatever. I
Mhm.
mean, it's never a pleasant thing. And I had an experience many years ago. I let somebody go, and they were very angry about it, very angry
Mhm.
towards me. All of that. There's nothing I could do about it at the time. It's an emotional response, but like almost 10 years later, they reached out on LinkedIn and actually publicly said that was the best. I didn't understand what you were doing. I didn't understand why you did it, but now I do. And you are 100% correct. And I
Yeah,
was able to go on and do these other things. And I was I mean, I was really surprised, particularly as the person did it publicly. But I think that's part of it. It's difficult because you have no control over the other person's emotional reaction.
that's right. That's right. I think in those moments, it's always going to be heated.
Mhm.
But over time, if you have done your job right, they'll like come back to understanding why you did it and how in the end it was better for them as a professional.
Yeah, and I like one of the topics that you cover in your book is how to give your boss less than glowing feedback. Because I've always said this to people as you progress in your career is that because people always say like about managing people, and I always say actually managing upwards is the toughest part, and
That's
that's
right.
and if you can figure out and if you can be effective at managing upwards, you'll have a much better and a happier career.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And it is tough. Like as you climb the ranks, CEOs are hard to manage up to, right?
Mhm.
So, it's a skill you'll learn over time.
Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you give for somebody listening? How do you give somebody who's hierarchically higher than you, um, so we say less, as you put it there, less than glowing feedback?
Well, I think the one thing like people should realize is executives and leaders are hired for a specific reason, right? So they're hired for a specific trait that they have. And what I found is any feedback that goes against that trait, they will not take it.
Hmm.
Right? It's like, for example, if you go to like Jeff Bezos and say, "Can you be nice?" He's gonna say no, because that's what made me successful. So I'm gonna be the way I am. So it's important for people to understand what makes their boss tick. And then you can figure out like whether you can actually give this feedback or not. And the other thing I recommend is giving smaller pieces of feedback during peace times. So
Mm,
if everything is going well, and things are great, try to give some small feedback to your boss and see how this person takes it. And then you'll find out whether this person's going to take stronger feedback or not. A long time ago, when I was learning how to ride a bike, like a motorcycle, in the as part of the class, they make you put down your bike and pick it back up. And their reasoning was, at some point in your life, if you keep like riding a bike, you will like put it down,
yeah.
and we don't want you learning on the side of the road how to pick this thing up. We'll teach you right now. So I would use the same approach for giving feedback to bosses as well.
Yeah, it's a great analogy. As somebody used to ride motorbikes back in the day in Ireland, yeah, you don't want to be on the ground with the bike lying on top of you, not understanding how to get this heavy machine, back upright again. But I like what you said there about peacetime is like it's almost like being strategic. It's like when
Mhm.
you have the opportunity, everything is calm, there's no issues, that you can maybe test the waters with some feedback at a time when the other person might be more receptive. Because as we said earlier, at times of stress with the emotion involved, people aren't at their best for receiving
That's right.
sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And especially when like the company's not doing well, when executives and leaders have to react to it, if you come in their way, it's not going to
Mhm.
end well, right? So if you're moving the company to pivot into a new direction to recover from whatever financial pressure you're feeling, if you go to them and say, "Hey, I don't like this," that's not going to they'll be
Right,
like, "Yeah,
right.
well, that's not great," right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that the last thing I'll say on this topic is, if you find out that your bosses personality is something that'll never change, and you cannot get along with that personality, you really have to decide whether you stick around or leave.
Yeah.
Because I also like tell people like you cannot stick around in a place where it's hard for you to work with your boss, because the relationship you have with your manager is going to determine your happiness at the place.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, and I think that's it. That sometimes you have to remove yourself from a situation, and that's something that's within your control. I mean, it's not, sometimes it's not an easy thing, but it's
Mhm.
within your own control. As you said, the chances of, if somebody has operates in a particular way, the chances of them changing to adapt to you are pretty slim.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I think like if you're early on in your career, if you're younger, then I think you can. The chances of you changing are very high.
Yeah,
Like even for me, I'm 40 something. I can't change now. Like maybe I can change a little bit, but I am who I am at this point. I'm baked in fully.
yeah. I'm a little older than you, and I'd say I'm fully baked probably at this stage. um, and another thing too is, you say about giving feedback to a client, and again, that's something I think people can get very. It's an uncomfortable thing if
Mhm.
you because we always want to delight our clients, we want to give them good news.
Yep.
Having to deliver bad news, again, it's something, sometimes we delay it, sometimes maybe we waffle a little bit, we're not very clear. Like, how do you recommend people approach that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the number one thing that clients are looking for from you is, do you understand their pain?
Hmm.
Like, do you understand what is the impact of you not doing what you're supposed to do? Like you're late on a project, or your product failed, or there's a service interruption. Um, you have to like show that you've done your research and you understand what their pain is. That's number one. If you walk into the conversation and trying to convince them that the pain is okay, then that's not going to end well, right? Because the
Hmm.
client want you to understand what their pain is. That's number one. And number two, go in with a plan, right? So
Right.
if you're going to be delayed, then you have to be able to say, what is the new date? What are you going to do to ensure that you're going to deliver on that date? And the last thing I'll say is, be ready to compensate them in some way.
Hmm.
In past lives, when there's been outages, the product that I managed, it had an outage, and our client lost some business. We ended up refunding them the cost of the product for like a few months, or in some cases, we even refunded them the business that they lost. So as long as, I think, but the number one thing is, are you empathetic to their situation, because that's what they care about.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because we've all had the experiences, and maybe we've been guilty of it ourselves. Is when you sort of say, Here's something delayed," and then you start to talk about all the pain you're feeling on your side, and all
That's
the
right.
things and what's happening, and the other person standing there going, "I don't really care about that part.
Right.
I care about my part."
Right. That's exactly right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really good point. And then you also talk about when you have to admit that you're going to break a promise. And I
Hmm.
guess that's a really tough one, isn't it? Because especially if, we like to think that our promises are solid, that our word is our bond, and all of that.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that situation?
I mean, you're exactly right, though. You have, as a leader, you have limited chances of doing that, right?
Hmm.
So, in a company, I would say you probably have one or two chances of doing this. If you do this like the third time, your team will be like, "Well, I don't trust you."
Yeah.
Um, the approach that I've taken when I had to go back on my word is transparency. I'm very transparent about what happened. I'm very self-critical about the role that I played in the mess up, and then promises to like become better over time. But again, like you have to like be the better person that you promise your team you will be in the future.
Hmm.
But the number one thing is being transparent about what happened, because a lot of times, when at least like I suspect like others who had like go back on their word, it's not their just their doing. It's like
Hmm.
other situations that have like happened around you, or at the company, or whatever may be the case, or sometimes acts of God. So usually it's never like one person's fault, but the more transparent you are, the better your team will like respond to it.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that it is about transparency, and I think the ownership part as well, because we live in a weird culture today, Mahesh, where it seems
Mhm.
that taking ownership and apologizing is counterculture. Yeah, we see it in politics. We see it all around us where people are always looking to kind of shift the blame or mitigate or
Yep.
somehow go, it's not really my fault. And I think especially if you're in a leadership position, the ability to be able to admit that something went wrong, or to admit that it was your fault, or just to literally take responsibility and take the pressure off of other people, I think that goes a huge long way.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think I tell this to my teams, you can have all these successes, I'll take all your failures.
Right.
So whenever the team messes up, I apologize on their behalf. The other thing that has helped me personally become better at this apologizing is I apologize to my kid. So whenever, like he's 11 now, so he's like a
Mhm.
little bit more mature than before. But when he was younger, he would do things that would like annoy me. So I would get
Mhm.
upset and I would like yell at him. But I realized like, it was wrong to yell at him. Like he didn't know what he was doing. So I would apologize to him. And I still do. And
Mhm.
it goes a long way. Like if you're comfortable apologizing to your kids, and if you don't have kids, get comfortable apologizing to somebody who is in a situation societally or economically lower than you.
Mhm.
And it makes you humble. Like it makes you realize that, you're not the be all and end all.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Like my son's 20 now, and yeah, I have to apologize to him on occasions and sort of be humble and say, "Hey, listen, there's no manual for this.
That's right.
There's no certification I could take. I'm learning being a parent as I go along, just like anybody else."
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and then just overall, I mean, when people have to deliver bad news, is there a better environment to do it in? Is there a better way to enter the conversation, or is it just best to just confront it as soon as you can?
I think, well, two things. One is, I would not recommend, like, I don't know if I can say the cuss word, like the crap sandwich. So,
Hmm.
like, you say the good stuff first and then the bad
Yeah,
stuff and then
yeah,
like the good stuff again. I don't recommend that at all because I think it muddles the message. So if you have critical feedback to give, just say it as is. So there's no confusion from the other person about what you're talking about. And then number two, this has changed dramatically. I would prefer to do it face to face,
hmm,
but given the remote world we're in, that might not be possible anymore. But if possible, I would recommend like a live Zoom meeting or like a face to face conversation. My the thing that I would really love to do is do it on a walk.
yeah.
You go outside for a walk and then you say, talk about the stuff that you want to talk about. But the number one suggestion or like recommendation I'll make is not do the sandwich thing. Just say it
Yeah.
as is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I like that idea of doing it on a walk, because at least if it goes bad, you can always run, right? Yeah. No, but I agree with you, because let's face it, whenever you say to somebody, "Do you want the good news or the bad news?" What do they always say? They always say, "Just give me the bad news first,"
That's
because
right.
that's like how we're wired as human beings. And I do think, yeah, face to face, as much as possible, because I think ultimately people appreciate that, even as we said, even if they may not at the time, at least they will look back and say, well, at least you had the guts to do it to my face.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And what I love about this, and I think it's a great book that you've put together here, is because, as you said, is like there's nobody really teaches you how to do this, do they? Did
No.
anyone ever teach you that part?
No, nobody taught me. I learned a lot of it through trial and error, mostly through error.
Hmm.
I think as I got to director, VP, had access to more senior leaders who taught me how to do this well. But a lot of it was learned through mentors, friends, colleagues, because everybody who writes about management and leadership wants to talk about the good stuff. Nobody wants to talk
Yeah.
about the bad stuff. So which is I was like, okay, well, there's clearly a gap here, so I'm going to try to fill it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's great. Well, listen, thanks very much, Mahesh. All of Mahesh's information will be below this video. But before we go, please do tell people a little bit more about you and what you do.
So I'm Mahesh Guruswamy. Like, I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Kickstarter. I love product development. I've been in this space for 20 some years. I also love coaching and mentoring other leaders and executives. So if you are dealing with a messy situation and you would want some help, reach out to me on maheshguruswamy.com. My contact information is on that site.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I would encourage people to do that. As I would say, I think mentoring, coaching, all of that is really good. That you don't need to do this stuff on your own. There's people you can learn from and you can shortcut. You don't always have to go through the learning through trial and error, like most of us have when you've got access to resources like Mahesh. So again, all of that information will be below this video. So thanks, Mahesh. Thank you for watching and listening, and I will see you all again soon.